I hope you can see the screen that I'm writing as of now. So let me clear few very basic things. Those guys who are from routing switching, those guys who are fresher, might be CCNA background, would like to take a transition to this security, because security is very much in demand, because security has the different field or different domains now inserted. You can protect the data network, you can protect the voice network in the enterprise. Also, cyber security, if you heard, this also comes under the security concept. Okay, so when you get into security domain, you would be kind of lost. Like, where do you start from? What is the starting point here? Should you go with theory? Should you go with Cisco ICE? Should you go with the email appliance? See, the security in any enterprise are divided usually in various departments. So you think from department perspective. The first department would be the data security. The next would be SOC. It's also called IT SOC or SOC analyst. And the third one would be nowadays something called cyber security guys. So data security or SOC analyst or cyber security, at the end, they all work on these firewalls, but the scope of work could be different. So knowing firewalls is definitely yes. This should act as your first place to get started with security domain. But let's say you are more towards the data security. So if you're more towards the data security, once you have completed with the firewall knowledge or firewall technology, then you can go with the different products here. You have something called as Cisco ICE. This is one of the product. You have something called the email security appliance. You have something called web security appliance. You have Cisco umbrella. This is a different product. You have IDS, intrusion prevention detection, detection system. You have AMP, antivirus malicious protection. So there are different products available in the security industry. You cannot start all of them at once. You have to start part by part. Understand that. Okay, give me 1 second. Just a minute, guys. Okay. So as I said, we cannot start with all of them. We have to start part by part. So you think from this perspective. So you start with this concept first, firewalls. You learn how to handle a firewall from the point of deployment, the initial startup configuration, the CLI, backend CLI, the dashboard of it, to apply the policy, to apply the NAT rules, to configure IPSec tunneling, to have or create the SSL certificates. So majorly the guys would be working on these concept. Okay. You will receive a ticket all of a sudden, and the ticket will be with, like, they give you some source IP, source port, destination IP, destination port, and ask you to allow this communication. So this type of questions are framed in the production. They will ask you this type of scenario. They give you some ticket. They will ask you to release this communication. So you have to run packet capture. You have to see which interface is the traffic incoming, which interface is the traffic outgoing, where do you have to apply this, which service, etc., etc. Okay. So guys, regarding the course timeline, we have two modules which is starting on 4th of Feb, Palo Alto and Cisco ASA. This is in the morning hours in India, whereas this would be on the evening hours in India. And after 10 to 15, 20 days, or after 1 month of completion, we will start with FortiGate, then Checkpoint, and then F5 load balancer. So altogether, this would go 4 to 5 months. The batch is conducted every weekends, Saturday, Sunday, between 8:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. IST. Okay, 3 hours of session. So in case if you are attending 2 modules at a time, you can expect 1.5 here and another 1.5 here per day. So evening plus morning. So what happens is, if you already are aware of the theory concept, but you also need to expedite the whole duration, you can cut down the duration by 2 to 3 months now. This is for someone who is intermediate level, who can handle 2 modules at a time. Someone who is a fresher, never into firewall industry, I would suggest go with 1 at a time, which would take 4 to 5 or at least another 1 month of additional time, but that is still okay from your knowledge perspective. Okay, so you have both the option. You can take parallel or you can take one after one. I put both of them, and this is how the pipeline is framed. So today I'll first tell you about the firewall mastery. What are we going to cover? As you guys know, we are covering the top 5 technology. I'm not gonna say Palo is top 1 or FortiGate is top 1. That we will discuss shortly. But what covered in this? We are covering PCNSA topic from the Palo Alto perspective. This is the official certification, and and these are some of the advantage of having the PCNSA certification. You get the lab access. I think we can come to this after some time. Okay, so let me first start with something more interesting. Let's give some time. I'll come to all this thing. I know you guys might be confused. Like, where do we start? So let me show you something called as Gartner report. Have you heard about Gartner report? I hope most of you might have heard about Gartner report. So what are these Gartner report? Basically, they conduct some survey. They are into the surveys. They give the survey to a lot of industry expert, the network firewall engineers, the product managers, the management, etc., and get some sort of questionnaire which gets polling. Okay, so after certain analysis, they come with the conclusion which firewall is top now, which firewall is second and third. So this is the graph. If you know, this is the x-axis and y-axis. Again, once again, your basic thing. And this is how the graph is laid up. So the first quadrant, this is considered as first quadrant. Then this is second quadrant, the third quadrant, and the fourth quadrant. Fourth quadrant, if you see any product falling on fourth quadrant, that is considered as the best. They are considered as the leaders. Someone who is falling under the challenger or third, they are, I can say, 90% best. So if these are 99 to 100%, the challengers would be 90 plus. The second quadrant would be anything 70 to 90%. And anything below 70 are visionaries. So let's see where are these firewalls are located as of now. So in the year 2010, if you see this quadrant, you see these were considered as best firewalls: Juniper and Checkpoint. And all the rest, Cisco, FortiGate, these were considered as one step below. I can say average or something like this. And Palo Alto was considered as just a low, or it was one of the firewall appliance which was just falling under the visionary part. They had no proper next gen appliance, they had no IPS, they were just into firewall industry. This is a 10 to 13 years old report. So you see Juniper and Checkpoint taking the major role, then comes Cisco, FortiGate, etc. But as the time evolved, the company started coming up with new products, new license, new feature. Now you see that FortiGate is one of the top. You have next Palo Alto, you have Checkpoint, you have Cisco, and rest of the things like where has that Juniper gone? Juniper is come out. Juniper has gone down. So these are some of the top technology now. You might have different types of firewalls, like you might heard about Sophos, you might have heard about Cyber Roam, you might heard about the Juniper VXRX. You might think that these are also good. Yes, they are good. I don't say they are not good. They are good, but they, when compared to the top brands, they are located in a lower list. So you see the Barracuda here. If you see WatchGuard, Sophos, ForcePoint, SonicWall, the Microsoft AWS firewalls, they are in a list below than the topmost. Okay, sometimes back, the Palo was leading. FortiGate was number 2, and this was 3, and Cisco sometimes 4, or it comes and overtake the Checkpoint. So this keeps on changing. So this was in the year November 2020. Right now, the latest report, September 2022, this is what it is. But the major question is, do you need FortiGate in that case for your requirement, or you can go with SonicWall? Because see, if this is the case, if we know top 3 players, the rest of the players would have already outside of the industry. They would not have any sales, they would not have any customers, they would have now completely out of the market. But that is not in this case. If you just do a quick check, like how old is Sophos now, you know that it's been into market for a very long time, and they are still making very good products, and the products are being highly utilized by most of the enterprises. So let's do a quick check. See, this is 30 years, 38 years old. They are not going anywhere. Why? Because they have their own customer database, they have their own uh, product or their own features that are being looked by the special dedicated sort of customers. Now let's say how are these decided? How is a selection of firewall done? On what basis? What How is the selection done? Or I can say, what firewall suits your requirement? So on basis of this, the decision is taken. We know that there are Palo Alto, FortiGate, Checkpoint, and the Cisco product. But on top of that, there are other competitors too. Sophos, you have Cyber Roam, you got the Juniper VXRX, correct? So these are also a competitor. Now, when someone is investing on purchase of these boxes, they will look into multiple factors. Factor is how many numbers of employees or how many number of users are gonna sit behind these firewalls. Is that particular enterprise a large scale or a mid scale or a small scale industry, or I can say enterprise? they will check how many numbers of VPN tunnel they might need it in future, what type of license they might need to buy in the future. Okay. Also the different things like how what data packet throughput you need across on this, how many SSL encryption decryption would take place. Let's assume the number of license required for IPS or IDS module. So see, these are the different factors when someone decide for which firewalls to go with. It's not about what product is on top one or top two. It depends on the company requirement. If the company is a small scale who can invest only on certain budget, so definitely they cannot afford the one which is on top one, top two. So they have to take it from the top 5, 6, 7, or someone which is listed at the bottom, which is equally good enough, because that meets their requirement. They need, let's say, 5 VPN tunnel that can be handled by Sophos. Let's say they need something which can have IDS and IPS. Let's say that also is supported by Sophos. So why should they go with Palo Alto in that case where they need to burn the money from their pocket? Whereas Sophos, let's say, it can be accumulated by this much of expense, right? So there are multiple factors when it comes to decision making which firewall or which product to go with. You cannot compare Palo with 40 or 40 with Checkpoint, because it depends on the requirement of the user. Not everyone will think about investing a huge money or huge amount. Some branch, okay, let's say, let me give you one more example. Let's say we have so let's say we have a large scale company, and they have multiple branches. They have branch and headquarter in New York, and branch located in a various tier 2, tier 3 cities. Let's say we have it in Delhi, we have let's say in Brazil, and these are all interconnected via internet. Definitely the headquarter will have more number of employees who will daily walk in, log out from the office, whereas in the branch, let's assume we only have 2 to 10 guys. So do you think, even though this is a large scale company, they would invest a huge money on deploying Palo Alto at this part? That don't serve their purpose either. They might invest it on this side, definitely, because of the high requirement, but on the other side they will definitely go with something else. They need not to go with Palo Alto. Might be they will think about adding Cisco ASA here, or might be they think about adding a FortiGate or Sophos, because that serves their requirement. Correct. So these are some decision maker. That is why I just told that time that there is nothing like top 1, top 2, top 3. Yes, definitely from the point of features, we can say yes, Palo Alto has more features. FortiGate might be having a unique feature which Palo do not have. Cisco FTD could have a better feature which Palo do not have it. But there is no comparison like I should always go with Palo only, otherwise my network is in danger. Or I have to always go with a Cisco FTD because that has this feature, and might be I need only this. That is not the decision maker. The decision maker relies on how many users you have who would be sitting in that premise, what type of license you might need in the future, what data throughput you need it here, what is the purpose of having the firewall. That makes your decision maker. And depending upon that, if you need Palo Alto, plug a Palo Alto here. You will never compromise on the data leakage. Whereas on the branch, you can invest on a smaller product, a smaller scaled product. Okay, so I hope that concept, that logic is clear. Like which firewall sits best, or which firewall do you need to buy for your enterprise? There are multiple decision maker in this case. So clear with that? Any doubt here? You can put your question or queries in the chat. I will go through it time to time. Okay. This is a question for someone who has never worked on firewall or a router. What is a difference here? If you want, I can unmute you for this question. You can just take 10 seconds to put one word or one word or one line, so that I understand we are on same track. Just go ahead. If you're answering, then only unmute. Otherwise, please don't unmute.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, go. Yeah.
Yeah, sir. Router is used to communicate between two different networks.
Okay.
But but firewall is used to filtering the traffic according to rules which we are creating on the firewalls.
Can I not have those rules in the router using access list?
No. This is Lalit. No, we cannot do, or we cannot get the all the specific features as comparison with the firewall at the router level. We have the limited security level configured. We can only it's a router level, but the not the all of the security features we have the on the firewall. We can configure router. It's not.
So what features we can add in firewall and not in routers? What are the different types of?
Right. Just take it. Okay, just take an example like filtering, like URL filtering, applications filtering. These all features we cannot implement at the router level. Router level have a limited or limitation with the security features like
Okay.
NAT or ACL.
NAT ACL you also have in the router, and let's put router only, not required switch, right?
Yeah.
Hi, this is Kaldas. So basically, with the help of router, you cannot router works up to the layer 3, and for the layer 7 inspection, we need a firewall.
Can I not
Yes,
keep a
agree.
firewall in a layer 3 and layer 4?
Yes, we can keep a firewall layer 3, layer 4, but for with the help of router, we can go up to layer 3. But if I want layer 7 inspection, then with the
Okay.
help of router, it is not possible. And also in the router, I cannot keep my previous entry. Like suppose if I'm sending a traffic, so router cannot keep that record within it. So next time router also will check it will go through the every step process like ingress or ingress ACL, outgress ACL, ingress traffic, outgress interface, inbound traffic, outbound traffic. So it will
Okay.
take time to process
So
the
what is the
packet.
basic difference from the data flow between firewall and a router? What happens when a packet is incoming? So what is the difference?
So basically, when packet is coming through the router, it will go to the ingress state, ingress interface, then ACL, QoS, NAT policy, then outgress interface, and outside ACL as well. So in a firewall, there is a stateful inspection. Is there in? I'm talking especially about the Palo Alto firewall, where stateful inspection is present. So first time it
So,
will.
oh
Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
1 second. So in the router, it will do ACL check first.
In the router, yes, sir. ACL is present in the router.
Okay. No, ACL, I mean, what happens? What does normally router do when a packet is received? It will do ACL check, etc., or it will check the routing table and will see where is the destination located.
No, so I don't have that.
Okay. Anyway, I'll just put.
Sagar, router only.
Sorry. I put someone on mute. Don't feel offended. Okay, I'll unmute after some time. So let me just clear few things here. Let's assume this is your router. You receive a packet on gig 0/0. It has two planes. It has normally three planes, but I'm excluding the management plane. So it will, let's focus on the rest of the two. One is a data plane and the other one is a control plane. Agree? So if you see a plain packets like a ping packet, etc., what happens is it will go via the data plane from the outgoing interface. Let's say this is the outgoing interface. It will go out to another router, or there could be a computer connected. So wherever, let's assume that that is the way if something comes to the data plane in a case of ping or a normal packet. But let's assume the packet is coming from the routing protocol based, okay, which is BGP packet, OSPF packet. So those packet will get into the control plane. In the control plane, you have the concept of routing table. Agree? So it will check the routing table. It will see whether this destination is present in the routing table, and accordingly it will push it. So might be there are different interface. Let's say there was an interface gig 0/3, and the routing table says the destination 8.8.8 is behind gig 0/3. So now this should have sent via 0/3. If the destination was 2.2.2 something, which is behind gig 0/2. So this would have sent it this way. So a router basically will forward the traffic on the basis of destination IP that is visible in the routing table. What happens if that destination was not present? If DST is not present, now what it does, it will instantly drop that packet. Now the drop is happening not because of any ACL or any policy. Drop is happening because it doesn't know where to go out. Either you should put a default gateway. You can put a default gateway if you don't want to drop that packet because they are not being read by any protocol. You can keep a default gateway so that they at least go to some DNS or some sort of next hop or something. And from there, the decision happens. So this is a basic concept of router. Anything comes to the router, it will see the routing table and then it will forward it further. There is no denial happening until you keep a ACL. So if you keep a ACL here, access list, you keep it. What happens now? It will check the source IP. It will check the source port, and also it will check to which destination are you sending this and what is the destination port. So on basis of this 4 tuples, tuples, whatever, the decision would be considered. But remember, this ACLs are manually put up. The network engineer has to sit in front of a router and create the ACL manually. If he has 10 different routers, he has to do the job manually on 10 different router. So this is what a basic thing happen in a case of router. But when it comes to firewall, I'm talking from the data flow. We will talk about OSI and all that thing in some time. In the case of firewalls, if something gets in, trying to get in, what it first check is, do I have a policy? This is the first thing it will check. Let's assume this is a brand new firewall. Someone just powered on, kept it between your network. What will happen? All the traffic that is trying to enter on day one, since you have not configured any policy, everything by default is getting dropped. Nothing is gonna get outside of this firewall. This is the basic flow that a firewall will follow. It is having a implicit deny rules. Now, how it is dropping? Because of this implicit deny rule. By default, a built-in rule will be present, which says that to drop all the traffic that is trying to enter from any interface. From any interface, this is the basic rule in the case of firewall. So how do you give the green signal? Because there could be a legitimate user. Let's say there is a user who is at 1.1.1. He wants to access something which is kept behind the firewall, which is at 2.2.2. How do you do that? You do it by allowing the policy. You will add a policy. You will say that the source IP is 1.1.1.1. The port number that he's trying, since he's a source will generate any random port. So let's say this is the port. On the destination side, the server is 2.2.2. And on which port number do you want to allow this? This is again a security breaches. You cannot allow on all port. Remember that. We will talk about port. What are these port? Because behind every port, there could be a service running. So port 22. What is port 22? Anyone know what is port 22? Yes, SSH. What is port 80? HTTP. What is port 25? SMTP. Correct. Right? So as a user 1.1.1, why should I give him access to SSH, HTTP, SMTP? I just want him to have access to SSH only. So I will allow him to 22 port number. So when I give this green signal, when I put this policy here, then this user can access that destination server on port 80. Okay, this is how the firewall works. Rest all the things like routing table, etc. They have a huge list of packet flow structure. When we go into the class, we'll talk about the packet flow. But remember that first thing, when a incoming packet is seen, it will check whether the policy is present. After that, you will have a lot of other things that to be considered. If it is encryption, then the headers needs to be decrypted. If it's a if there are a encrypted policies you have added, like app ID or the user ID, those things will be taken care. Then comes the session creation, etc., etc., and then the routing table would be checked, and then it will be pushed out from the outgoing interface. So routing table is not the first preference for firewall. Firewall will first check its connection table, and it has a policy for that. If these are messing up, then it's an implicit deny. All the packets is going down. Whereas in the previous scenario, it was all good until you have any default route or default gateway. If you have it, it will just pass it. If you want to restrict something, you will add a ACL. Okay. Now we'll talk about this ACL. The ACL, the access list versus the firewall policy. Because under firewall policy also you add a ACL only. So what is the difference between in regular ACL that you keep on a router or switch versus the firewall policy, which is also a ACL basically. See, when you go with ACLs in the case of the routers, first thing is it's a manual effort. Okay. It's a manual effort. Guys, 1 second. So this is a manual effort. You need to put these ACLs on all the 3 routers in case you have 3 routers. The second thing is they are stateless in nature. They don't build their own connection tables. So in that case, let's say you have something, you have 2 sources, 1.1.1.1, 2.2.2.2, which are trying to go out to certain destination like 8.8.8.8. Let's say 1.1 is initiating the traffic. towards 8.8. Now from 8.8.8, if the return traffic has to come back to 1.1, they are stateless in feature. That means they are not keeping any connection table. So you have to put bidirectional rules. Remember that. What is bidirectional? To and fro communication. You started from source to destination plus the destination to source, the response packet. You know this concept, right? All the things has a request and a response traffic for it. So let's say if you are initiating a ping, which has echo request, echo response. You are making a trace route. It is going via request and response. You do any sort of TCP packet or something. There is a three-way handshake, which is kind of request and response, right? So stateless is when you have ACL for this plus you have ACL for this. This is what happens for stateless. You need to put a bidirectional rule now. But in the case of firewall policy, which are basically considered as a stateful feature, you don't have to have bidirectional, because what they will do is they will keep a connection table. They will maintain a connection table. So under the connection table, it's gonna say that I am aware of one ongoing traffic which started from this IP, from this port, which is going towards this destination and this port. Now, if the written traffic is coming back, the response is coming back, you don't need to have an additional rule because the connection table is present. So it will take the same connection and it will allow you to come in. So these are called the stateful feature. Basically, your transaction or your connection are getting monitored now. The sessions are monitored. And this is one of the very frequently asked question. What do you mean by stateful and stateless? What is the difference between a regular ACL and the ACL that you apply in a stateful firewall? Because at the end, both are rules itself. Both are ACL rules. So you should know that ACL are considered stateless, do not have a connection table. Whereas in a firewall, you maintain a connection table. So you don't need every time to put a bidirectional rule and increase the length of these. You know how does ACL work? What is a downside of having too many ACLs? You might think it's a piece of another line. What big deal? I'll put two lines instead of one line. But what is a down limit of this? What happens if you have, let's say, any device, irrespective of router or firewall, let's say having 10 ACL versus having 1000 ACL? What is a down limit of this from a normal concept? Do you know how is the ACL, how is the ACL interacted, or how is the ACL checked in the devices, networking devices? See, tell me from having 10 ACLs versus having 1000 ACL in any device, respective of router or firewall. Yes, the checks happens top to bottom. This is what I was trying to say. If you have 10 rules, 10 ACL rules, the checks will be made in top to bottom order. It will first check whether this match up. If it's not matching up, then it goes to next, then it goes to next, then so on, it comes to the last step. So let's say it is adding 5% overhead on your device. What is overhead? Increase of CPU and the RAM. So you are unwantedly increasing 5%. But let's assume in a stateless feature where I said that you might have thousands of rules. Okay. You are having the same approach top to bottom, which is increasing the overhead by 60%. So this is what happens in a stateless. Having too many ACL rule is not a good solution. With a stateful feature of a firewall, we can reduce the number of ACL. Okay, I saw one question which was like, if I want to restrict the, so let's say that I have allowed this ACL allowed, right? And we also talked about connection table. If something comes back for this, it is going to allow it. So how do we block if I don't want a bidirectional traffic? So traffic which is going back, what you need to do is you need to put a ACL deny at this point. So in this case, what happens is the features of connection table or the feature of stateful don't impact your bidirectional traffic. If you want to block your bidirectional, it happens in some cases where you don't want the bidirectional traffic. You want to keep it only one-way communication. So this is why, remember, the policies are put on both the side. You can have the policy on the ingress interface, plus you can have a policy on the egress interface. Have you heard about these terms, ingress and egress? These are used in a firewall scenario. Ingress is nothing but the incoming traffic, the traffic that is entering the firewall. Whereas egress is outgoing traffic, the traffic which is existing out from firewall. So these are heavily used terminology, ingress and egress. Yes, incoming, outgoing, you call this in a routing technology, but when you appear for interview, better call out ingress and egress, because that is how the packet flows are being discussed. I hope that is clear with respective to what is the difference between a router and a firewall and how it's gonna treat the incoming traffic. Okay, I can see a question. Can you explain the difference in between standard and extended ACL? So guys, firewall don't use standard. Okay, no firewall will use standard. So we are only talking about extended ACL, a regular extended ACL on a router versus the extended ACL on firewalls. Okay, take out the standard concept. The standard don't come, however, here. This is, see, you are asking for standard and extended, right? Basically, that's a CCNA question. So you know, in standard, what happens? It treats only on base of the source, whereas in a extended, you know that it's gonna check the source and destination. Decision happens on source and destination, right? All right, so let's proceed. Once again, I would put some frequently asked question. Do you think IPSec can overcome the firewall? Can we just have IPSec and not firewalls? If you want, I'll give you 10 seconds. You can answer. I'll unmute you guys. You can unmute now yourself. And what is your interpretation about IPSec and firewall?
In my view, actually, both are different. IPSec cannot like overcome firewall.
Okay.
So IPSec, it's a completely different concept. It's used in like cryptography and like secure communication between client and server. Those kind.
So
Mostly into the
firewall is also
cryptography.
used for a very similar purpose, right? To secure the enterprise. So where is that you find it different, IPSec and firewall?
Hi, Sagar. Sorry to interrupt in between. Actually, like IPSec and firewall, right? We cannot compare the IPSec with the firewall because IPSec is the concept we are configuring on the firewall. And firewall is like a device, or you can say it's a L3 device. It is considered. The comparison can be done between the firewall and router, or in
Okay.
between the L3 other devices. IPsec is a concept we are using on the firewall.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, in this short, IPsec is a type of VPN tunnel. It's a technology, or firewall. It's a security appliance where we have or we can use the multiple features of the security. So it's appliance.
Okay. All right.
This IPsec can be used for this side-to-side connectivity, like multiple things. But firewall is a standalone device, so where we configure all policies, objects, everything.
Okay.
So,
All right. All right. All right. Yes. So most of guys have answered it well. See, IPsec is considered a host-to-host security level, or you can say a host-to-host authentication and encryption. That means I have a computer here and I have a computer over here. If I want to if I want to apply some security mechanism, I don't need to plug up firewall between them. Firewall, it's a costly device. Between the two, how would I have some sort of security mechanism? So here is where the concept IPsec comes. IPsec is a concept which will provide you the authentication and encryption features. So why we do this is, in case of a man in middle attacks, okay, a person who is trying to steal the data, analyze on a packet captures or packet capture tools like Wireshark, try to see what data you're sending. That data could be a plain text and it's containing username, password, etc., or some banking detail. So in that case, let's assume that you want to encrypt the data. So IPsec act as a encapsulation header here, which will provide you authentication and encryption. So both the end, there will be enough number of parameters set. You have to set enough number of encryption and authentication parameter. If you go with a phase 1 and phase 2, each phase there would be some sort of algorithm setup. So you will decide, should I go with SHA256 algorithm? You will decide, should I go with a HMAC? Should I go with a pre-shared key? Now the same thing should also be configured on the other side. They both will negotiate, and the data that you want to send can be sent in a secure tunnel. This is what happens in the case of a basic IPsec. But in the case of a firewalls are used for a different purpose. If you have two machines, the requirement is not to secure the two host to host communication. Might be the requirement is to secure the complete network, the whole network. Might be these machines, these users, they're typing facebook.com. So basically that traffic is leaving out. The other person is typing Google, right? So the traffic is going outside. Might be they are browsing some YouTube, they are browsing, they're downloading some file, etc., etc. So what is happening now is, they might land up to any malicious website. They might download some code. Might be that those files would be look like a genuine file, some genuine software, but the minute they install it on their machine, the virus which is kept or which is in the file might get regenerated to a different device. Let's say the file got downloaded here, the person installed it here. After a certain time, you will see the virus got infected to this second device. Now all the devices are either in a threat level, or they are having a backdoor. The hackers or the spammers are having a access on what you do, etc., etc. They have the control of it. So in this scenario, I can keep a firewall on the perimeter. So any traffic which is leaving my network and any traffic which is entering my network should go thoroughly through the process. So depending upon the requirement, I can enable the SSL certificate. I will enable the policy, which user can browse, which user should not browse. I can enable the concept of app ID, user ID, device ID. So these are the extra things that I can put it. I can also enable the antivirus, anti-spyware. Okay, and lot many features. So this is a complete two different thing. IPSec is a different concept and firewall is a different concept, because most of the time someone who appears for network security, this is a very popular question. So I hope that is cleared. So let me get into the next most frequently asked question. All right, I'll give you one diagram. So this is a diagram. I want you to think from a design perspective. You need to tell me where is the best location that the firewalls can be placed. Okay. So you need to tell me where exactly this firewalls sit. So where do you think the firewalls should be kept? So let me unmute. You take 10 seconds. You can unmute and tell me. Yes, guys, those who have not answered, you can try this question at least. Those who have answered, you can wait for the next question. Okay, I see before ISP. All right. So before ISP or edge, you can call, or
Outside the router.
outside the router, or which router? The edge router?
Yes, sir.
Outside the router. Can I say
Between ISP and router.
ISP and router?
We can use before router, because this firewall is filtering the inside and outside traffic, right? So that ISP connectivity come from the router. We can connect the firewall as well using as a this metric values.
Okay.
But most of the times we use that router at the edge.
Okay, so let's say outside the edge router, between ISP and the edge router, or before router is basically the same. This and this is basically same. Before router. Okay, sorry, not that. Basically this and this. Outside router you can keep, or between ISP to router, that is acting as a outside. Okay, any other location that we can keep it? Internet facing, are these all examples? Okay, these are all internet facing only. Anything apart from internet router?
We can place here as well this access to sorry, after this core.
Can I keep it in a LAN, local area network?
Yeah, the business firewall we can place there.
In what case do we keep it near LAN?
That LAN we can communicate only the specific traffic for that source to destination. I mean, to communicate this local servers, local server communication.
Okay, web servers.
So, yeah, web servers. So web servers come in the public zone, right? So that will become in the internet.
No,
that will be.
Web servers are usually the servers which are created in the LAN, local area network. Some
but web servers should be in DMZ side.
Yeah, DMZ. That's what. Yeah, web is so shared server.
DMZ is a logical boundary. If you ignore the concept of how firewall work, what are different zone, if you just think from where exactly you can keep it. So let's say you can keep it before the web servers or servers,
shared servers,
the local area network. We will talk about DMZ, like what exactly DMZ and when you keep. Web servers are of two types. One, when you have a private IP assigned to them, sometimes the web servers can have a direct public IP too. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now I'll unmute. Sorry, I'll mute everyone. So let's talk about more on this topic, the right placement of the firewalls. So if you see here, I have created site 1, let's say site 2, site 3, and site 4. Just a representation, easy for us to point it out. So if I consider site 1, I have deployed all the firewalls in the core layer. I can either keep in front of router or behind the router. That depends on your network design. The design team would say that let's have the routers doing the routing and the NAT. In that case, the router will act as the termination point from ISP point of view. The ISP link will directly terminate on the router. Router will do the routing part and the NAT part. The second concept would be when you are from a small scale segment, you don't want 100 or thousands users going and sitting over there. Might be the requirement is just 3 user. So for this, keeping router and firewall as 2 different unit don't make sense. So instead of router, I can keep a single firewall there, which will act as a termination point with respective to ISP. Firewall will do all the job, routing, NAT, the policy, or any inspection or whatever. The firewalls will handle this. Whereas in this case, the routing and the NAT part, you kept it here. The rest like policy, deep packet inspection, the SSL, the IPSec, you want to keep on the firewall. Why do we need to keep 2 different units? Because when you deal with thousands of users, you don't want to overburden a single device. So you are trying to keep them separate. You don't want to keep routing part in the device itself, in the firewall itself, which will increase the overhead ultimately. And due to overhead, the other features will start breaking down. So you are trying to keep routing completely outside of firewall. Though you can do the routing part very easily in a firewall, but still you try to keep the things which router can handle easily and the rest thing which firewall can handle a better way. So this is how we can deploy this. If you see sometimes in the LAN perspective, when I say that there are 100 users, what would be the problem with these many users? Say for example, these guys, they are from a sales team who have 10.1.1./24 network. These guys are a different network / all class C examples. Let's say these are 10.1.2.0/24. You have some servers which are 10.1.3./24. So what would happen if you keep the gateways on, let's assume the DHCP is configured here on a MLS switch, a layer 3 switch. So all these guys, they would be able to communicate, and due to which you might see that any person is able to initiate any SSH connection to a network device. He is initiating a ping. He's trying to introduce extra overhead on the device by unnecessary ping or whatever. So you would try to isolate this problem. So the best option for you to now decide is not keep the DHCP in the switch. Instead, keep that sorry, the DHCP I should have put up here. These are the core switch, not the access switch you configure DHCP. You do it here. But let's assume that you want to isolate this problem of everyone pinging to each other, the unnecessary overhead. You can keep the gateways on a LAN firewall. So this is why just before the core switch, you can introduce a firewall. You can keep a very traditional firewall too. You don't need the deep packet inspection. You just need the unnecessary uh, wastage of the resources. So you can keep even a ASA firewall. You keep a ASA firewall here. See, now you are already running a set of firewalls. Might be you're running a Palo Alto here. And in the backend, you're running a ASA firewall. So there is no like, this is top one, that is top two. It's all about your requirement. So in this requirement, you kept some firewalls. And on the firewalls, you configure your gateways. So what happens is this all guys first has to get towards the firewall. Now, since you know that firewall make use of a implicit deny, correct? All the traffics are by default gonna be dropped. So this is your step number one. Now you might be wondering, how would I allow the traffic? That happens when someone send you a ticket. A ticket would be created with the source IP, source port number, destination IP, destination port, with the action allow or deny will be sent to the security team. The security team will go through some management approval, etc. Why you, because that person has to justify why he need access to a network device. Once that get approved, you as a network security engineer will log into the device, will apply the necessary policy, will do the necessary test, connection test, and then you will reply back to the ticket saying that this to this is allowed now. Now he has the access to the destination, but only on that particular port number. So there is no unwanted overhead by not going with the basic things here. So most of the company where there are servers to server interaction, app server to DB server, or management server to a payroll server. So what happens is people unwantedly try to log in. There could be some tools which are unnecessarily sending a ping traffic. So to kill this type of unwanted resource utilization, you can add this. Second thing is it provides you another layer of security. Now you are only allowing those users which were approved by management. So you have a more control towards your LAN network too. Okay, you can put any small firewall, not needed to be a very expensive one. So these are some places before the edge router, after the edge router, depending upon where do you want routing and NAT to be. You can keep in a LAN premises when you have multiple servers, LAN users. You would like to monitor, or you would like to allow only those connections which you would like to. So just change the gateway to the firewall. And also you can keep it towards the DMZ, demilitarized zone. Now these are a special zone. Now this I'm talking from the firewall perspective and from the ASA firewall perspective. Okay, so what happens in the DMZ is something coming from outside. Okay, any traffic that is coming from outside will first enter to the firewalls. Now I don't want the customer traffic which are basically towards the servers to be kept in my LAN, in the LAN premises, because in the LAN premises I might keep it for my own employee usability purpose. Like say if any servers that I'm keeping it which helps my own employees, like payroll server, attendance server, login logout server, your own confidential data of your enterprise, you will definitely keep it in the LAN of your network, which is heart of your network. Whereas customer traffic, why do you want to keep it or bring it till your internal network? Why don't we keep those traffic outside of this network, the internal network? So what we do is, in the firewall, we will create different zones. So this particular zone, I will call it as inside zone. And the zone which is going to an logical boundary, I'll name it as demilitarized zone. So traffic will hit on the firewall without going to internal. It is forwarded towards the DMZ side. So whatever happens, that is only in this boundary. Even though if there is a DOS attack, there is a malicious activity happen, it will happen only in this particular DMZ. Your internal zone is secured because you're not giving all the guys or all the outsiders to come till this. So you're isolating this. Now, how many DMZ should you create? Number of customers. If you have 10 customer, you can have 10 DMZ, because these are logical things. You can just call the DMZ this way. You can say this is a DMZ for the Vodafone customer. Keep all the Vodafone servers here. You can create another logical DMZ. You can say, you can name that DMZ as DMZ for let's say AT&T guys. So any traffic which is entering, which is meant for the AT&T, it will go to that region. The servers are accessible and go out or leave our network. It will not come towards the internal network of our company. So that is why what we do is, especially the companies which are into software selling. So let's say the companies like SAP, which sell their ERP solutions, or the Intuit, which are selling the products, right? So what this company does, it they create a lot of DMSs depending upon the customers. So customer will pay them. The services are kept SaaS model, which are available online. So the customer would come, go to the respective DMZ this way. It will come here, go to that. Let's say one more traffic is trying to enter. It goes to DMZ. This way. And where is your internal network located? You have secured your internal boundary. So the firewall, let's say the firewall that is facing here, it will have a interface dedicated for inside, and rest you can dedicate it for the DMZ configuration. So any number of DMZ you can set it up. And under DMZ, you can keep any number of servers. In case if this is having a DDoS attack or a DOS attack, you can easily cut down the connection towards this and re-virtualize whatever the servers you had given, because you know that nowadays the servers are all virtualized on a hypervisor. So you can just bring up another 100 set of virtual servers pointed to this, and the customer is back with accessibility. So these are the advantage of having a DMZ as well. It never impact your internal networks. Okay, so this was regarding to where do you need to keep the firewalls. I hope I cleared your doubts. So can we just discuss another basic question which is asked usually? The types of firewalls. Have you ever thought about what could be the different types of firewalls? Let me unmute. Take 10 to 20 seconds.
No, sorry, can you repeat the question?
What are different types of firewalls available?
Firewall types.
Yeah, firewall types. Let's not think from the deployment. Let me put it this way. You can
We have like packet filtering firewalls,
We have like a perimeter firewall.
application level firewalls, stateful infection firewalls.
Okay.
Network-based firewall and host-based firewall.
Okay. All right. Okay. So from the deployment point, we can have a software-based firewalls. We can have a hardware-based. We can also have a cloud-based. So when I say software-based, they are the virtual base. Virtual base in the sense you have a bare metal servers or a type B hypervisors. Based on that, you can deploy this software. You can spin up the lab and it will power on. So you have that firewall running up now. Hardware is when you go and buy that hardware, the physical device. You need to take care of its power consumption. The whole thing is with you, because sometimes the management wants the device to be with you in your data center, not relying in a cloud or somewhere. When I say cloud, these are the cloud cloud facing. Let's say if you buy the firewalls from AWS, GCP, or Azure. Have you heard about the marketplace? Do you know that you can buy the firewall from these? Okay. So when do we use a software base, especially while we do a lab? Let's say I'm preparing for CCI, I'm preparing for CCNP. I cannot invest on a cloud, or I cannot go and buy hardware. So I have my laptop with 32 GB or something. I'll put this emulators like GNS or EVNG on the hypervisor like VM Workstation or VM Workstation, Oracle, VirtualBox, VM Player. So these are some hypervisors. I'll put the necessary things and my firewall is ready. It's a software basis. If you think from some small scale levels, they do the same. They might have servers. On the top of servers, they might put the software based appliances and then they configure them. So that's one kind of example. Hardware is specially deployed in the data centers. Facebook data center, LinkedIn data center, and the Google data center, Cisco data center. They will have a rack. They will have a rack where with all this device kept in or mounted in those racks. Whereas a cloud based is when you don't want any hardware or software with you. You just want the features to be adopted. So what you do is you go to AWS, go to the marketplace, look for, let's say, Palo Alto. There are two types of license available or two types of Palo Alto available. One is you get the included with license. Another one is BYOD, bring your own license, BYOL. And the second thing is when you only pay for both the license plus the appliance feature or the firewall. So in this case, you can have your own license from your own company. You just need the license and top it up. In the second example, the license plus appliance also you can pay to the AWS and get that feature. So these are the three things. Okay. And in the case of cloud, when most of the people say that hardware is getting obsolete, virtual is not used, should we go with the cloud? But where do you think the cloud guys are keeping them? They might be keeping them in behind their data center, or might be they are keeping it in the software side. So I can put it this way: the cloud guys might keep them in a software basis, or they might keep in a hardware basis. And they are giving us a panel of it. So the benefit is I don't have to worry about the software upgradation, device going down, up, internet on my data center, uh, any sort of natural calamity or anything. I don't need to bother because I paid money to the cloud. They will give me from another instance or another region. They might have their own engineer who are taking care of their own hardwares or software. Okay, so cloud doesn't mean that you just can come out of the hardware and software. They are deployed somewhere. These Amazon will have their own data center where they might have deployed these devices. If they are using software, then they also need some servers to top it up, those images, right? So these are from the deployment perspective. From the architecture or from the packet flow or the inspection perspective, you guys already know most of them. There is a packet filter, the very basic one. I can also say that the traditional firewalls. Then we have a circuit gateway, bit better than packet, but again, once again, these are limited with what they do. Then we have a stateful inspection firewalls. We have UTMs, Unified Threat Management. We have next gen firewalls. So do you think we need something else now? There is something else which is called threat focused next gen firewalls. Okay, so first let me tell you what basically a packet filter would do. Packet filter only check those 4 tuples: source IP, source port, destination IP. On that basis, it will allow or deny. In case if there is a if the data content is infected with virus, it's not gonna do a deep packet inspection, or there is no concept of the other major things like antivirus, anti-spyware, etc., etc. So packet level packet filtering you can keep in a case of a LAN network or somewhere where you just need a simple deny or access. Whereas the circuit level are kind of a web-based firewalls where you have something called TCP handshake which get checked. So this is like one layer above than the packet filter, but they cannot the circuit level gateway cannot run on their own. They need a packet filter plus the circuit level gateway, which will give you one step on top of packet level. But once again, not something which we can rely on a large scale. The stateful feature has the feature of the first type, plus it has a stateful connection table. So you know that we discussed in the first topic today. What does a stateful feature do? So basically all your firewalls like ASA firewall come under this stateful inspection. What is UTM then? UTM deals with IPS and IDS module. Intrusion prevention, intrusion detection. At the time of ASA, like 10-15 years back, UTM used to be an additional module that you need to integrate with ASA, something like this. A blade which we normally, like a chassis which we can normally add it on a chassis of another device. UTM used to be that concept, but nowadays most of the next gen firewalls will have them inbuilt because this has become very major player now, UTM features. So in a next gen firewall you will expect the feature of the stateful. Along with stateful, you have UTM features. Along with UTM, you will have the deep packet inspection. You have the concept of app ID. If you're talking from Palo Alto perspective, app ID, user ID, device ID, the SSL encryption, decryption. You have QoS. You have the VPN tunneling, the signature checks. Yes, So these are all the additional things that you will see in the case of next gen firewalls. Now I have also kept something called as threat focused next gen firewall. So what would be the examples for next gen? This is your Palo Alto, FortiGate, Sophos, Juniper VXRX, FTD. So these are some examples which falls under next gen. In case of threat focused next gen, you can think that Cisco has this feature, a unique feature, which is called threat focused. Now, let me give you one example in what case threat is required, threat focused is required. Let's assume you get an incoming or ingress packet from a outside zone of your Palo Alto. You might have allowed the policy, you might have put a policy which is gonna check the source IP port, the destination IP port. You have all the rest like antivirus license, anti-spyware, you have app ID, you have device ID. Let's say you have put in all the required features. Okay. Now, the threats on a daily basis keep showing up with a new face. In this case, what happens is a threat can, let's say, considered as a unknown. You know that what happens with app ID. If it is a known data file, that might categorize them in a different category. It can call that as a poker category. And what have you done for a poker category? You might have denied it from entering. You might have got some adult traffic. You want to deny that. You might have received some torrent website. You want to deny that. So the categorization is important. And how do you want to treat the unknown traffic? Sometimes not all traffics are bad or unknown traffics are bad. Some could be due to you do not have enough categorization. The good traffic might have treated as a unknown. So the process says that at that point of time, we create the template. We can call this as a voice traffic in Palo Alto. And then I propose this to the Palo Alto so that they treat this as a genuine traffic and they don't deny this. But for some reason, let's say this time, the unknown traffic was actually a malicious traffic. And since you have put a allowed, so this malicious traffic will first go to a user who is at this. His system is infected now. Now, on a slower basis, this malicious traffic will hit on the next device. So this is going down. You might have other servers that is now getting infected. So this is a kind of a breach. So this is what we handle using threat focused next gen firewall. Now firewalls, what they do is, let's assume that a unknown traffic has entered. It's not the end process here. The threat focused will keep a history of it. A history is created. The history will say this traffic from day 1 to whatever number of day it has been configured with. Let's say day 100. On day 7, you get the unknown traffic showing us originality or it's showing what it is. Let's say this system gets recognized as infected by your Cisco FMC, the firepower management controller. On the day 7, it say that 1.1 is infected. By whom? By the file which was allowed some days back, unknown file. Now you will now this is infecting the other device after day 11. Then you see that on day 20th, the same file has infected the next machine. So this is making the device to think this file which you allowed is corrupting one after the device. So it might take some time. Some viruses are not instant. it has some history behind it. You might see that you might have visited torrent website today, instantly you don't get infected. Sometime 1 week after, you see that some files got corrupted, etc. So this particular segment will even keep a history of such files. And when it see this pattern, the things are going bad, it will first mark that file as infected and try to quarantine. It will delete that file. Second, that file will now be treated as a malicious file. As per the categorization, it will treat this. So let's say after a while, at 31st day, if the same thing tries to enter, it's getting denied at the first step itself. So I have prepared one small graphical thing, which I will show you how this history happens. See, this is in the case of a regular next-gen firewalls. The unknown will get in, and then after a couple of days, you will see the things going down. But in the case of the threat-focused next-gen firewalls, they keep a track of it or a history of it, how this unknown files are treating this. So let's assume that this is a Cisco FMC dashboard. You know what is Cisco FMC, which is a centralized management for FTD appliances. You can handle multiple FTD using a centralized management, which is a FMC. So under a FMC dashboard, I can see the history of that particular file. So I will see that this guy, this user, downloaded on this date at this time. Now the file on certain day, let's say day 20 also, has been infected. Now you see the pattern, that file was also automatically got transferred to another user. And after a couple of days or hours, you see the file is getting the system infected. Now 4 systems are infected in a irregular basis. Sometime after 2 days, sometimes 5 days, sometimes 8 days. This is a pattern which the device will understand. Okay, so at this step, what happens? The infected was determined, and it will see that how this was downloaded from a Firefox. It was downloaded. What file was it called? Let's say the file was called as let's say license.iou. So it will start tracking that file, and after certain times, at particularly let's say this time, the endpoint connector will start reacting. What this AMP will do is, they will start quarantine the file. The files would be deleted first from all these 4. And also they will make sure they don't get copied to the rest of the things. And finally, that particular file, the file that in the first place was copied, if it retry to get downloaded, that file gets denied automatically. So this is a threat focused firewall concept. Okay, and in Cisco FTD we have this. All right guys, so I'll keep it short. Let me now show you some labs that we would be showing you in the full course. So this is our Cisco ASA/FTD lab. So once you enroll this, you will have your own access to the box. These are a Linux based, so expect the commands like if config. Okay, so do I have an IP 100.200? So how do I access if firepower management? So let me just show you the controller. So I go here. I type 192.100.200. I log into this. So I don't have to log into individual single firewalls if I have a centralized management. If you see here, we have firewalls stored over here, over here, over here, and could be in any other location. So with a single FMC, you can onboard them. So under device, let me see if I have the individual appliance or added or not. See, I can see one device which is with me, and when I go to analyzers, yeah, here it was, network file trajectory. So this is the feature that I was discussing with you, which is under network file trajectory. So all those unknown files get its own history, which recorded over here. And over here, we get to know, like, did it infect any system, how many systems got infected, and how do you want to treat it. So whatever happens, this is located here in the network file trajectory. Rest of the things, most of the firewall will do the regular operations, like adding policies like ACL, intrusion. This is your UTM policies, malware, DNS, identity, SSL. These are where you will add the onboarding of the single FTD, whatever VPNs you want to configure, the object, the AMP, intelligence. So this is a FMC dashboard from the Cisco vendor perspective. So let me show you the dashboard of Palo Alto. So those once we cover with the Cisco firewall, then we get into the Palo Alto. So when you go to Palo Alto, you should know the basic commands to at least get the management. So anyone know the CLI command to get the management IP? Let's say I'm not familiar with Palo Alto. I'm asking you, can I have the CLI command? How do I get the IP of it? Any Palo Alto guy? Show interface all brief is a Cisco command. Remember that. It's asking me to change the default password. Show interface all, show system info. Let me first quickly change the password. Okay. So I've changed the password. Let me put the right password, so right CLI command, show interface management. So this will give me the management IP. So it says that 29.93. So let me say 29.93. So this is a dashboard of Palo Alto version 10. So as I said, a lot of regular features are identical between different vendors. So you can see all the policies put up here: NAT, QS, security, PBF, policy-based forwarding, decryption, tunnel. The object section is here. The network section is here. Any management related thing you can do under the device thing. If you're monitoring the traffic, you can do it here. This is called application control, where you can see the categorization like HTTP traffic, voice traffic, etc., etc. Is there any threat? All those things. The license part, etc. You see it under device, and when you click here on the license part, by default they will give you the license where you can do most of the things, but sometimes some license are required to do the add-on features. In the case of Palo Alto, like anti-spyware, antivirus, these needs additional license. Only then you can use it. But in the case of ASA, you get the evaluation license. So for 90 days, you would get a evaluation license. Once you have that, you can do almost all the paid versions of it. Same goes with FortiGate checkpoint. They also have they also are able to do a lot of things by themselves. Whereas in the F5, we need to book a license. We get, after booking the license, we get some license key that I need to upload it to the F5 dashboard, and that is how my local traffic management blade will be activated, and then I can do all the paid version. So that license is valid for 30 days. After 30 days, you need to re-trigger your new license. So each vendor has their own concept. So when we go from vendor to vendor, you will understand which vendor works on what basis. Okay, let me quickly walk through this course material, what basically we would be covering. So we have we have this 5 modules arranged in this format. As I told you, next weekend we are starting in the morning Palo, and in the evening we have starting with Cisco. You can go with both at a time. You can go one at a time. Then for the Palo Alto, we are covering PCNSA topic. You would get the study material. The lab is 2 months for each module, which is unlimited accessibility. There is no hourly base. It's unlimited. You can log in at your time and practice by yourself. I've just shown you some lab randomly to log in and show the dashboard. That is how you would be working on your instance. You will get all the workbooks, reading material. The live classes are recorded. So in case you're from a different time zone, you could not attend, the live class get recorded and will be put up in the web portal on a daily basis. So you can go through the recording. And the automation topic would be covered for each vendor. When it comes to Palo Alto, I'll show you the automation with Python, Ansible API for Palo Alto, along with your core topics. This is the lab for Palo Alto. You can see the number of Palo Alto installed. We have also kept another multi-vendor appliance that is from the VPN perspective. So this is one of Palo Alto, and Palo Alto. So all the different concepts like transparent firewalls, IPSec between Palo to Palo, IPSec between Palo to Cisco, object creation, policy creation, data center to data center communication. So this all will be the regular case studies that we discuss when it comes to Palo Alto firewalls. These are some labs that we have mentioned for Palo Alto. From the F5 perspective, we will be covering the LTM module. As you know, that big IP has many modules: ASM, WAF, APM, but we would be focusing on the LTM, local traffic management. Most of the things remain the same. 2 months of online lab accessibility, live classes, recording of every live classes, which is lifetime accessible, workbook, PDF reading material. And I will also show you how do you bring this on your home lab setup. Though we give you the remote lab, but I will also show you how do you deploy this on GNS or PNet or EVNG, and how do you book your own license so that you can work on the LTM part. This is the lab for F5. We have two F5 modules, and in the backend, we have kept the servers, the web servers. So those guys who are not sure what LTM is, these basically do the load balancing of the traffic. Okay, your firewall could be somewhere, the router could be somewhere. So the load balancers are kept behind them. So you're sending a traffic. Where does this traffic needs to land? On server 1, 2, or 3. You have concept of cookies, persistence, monitors, certificates, even in the load balancer. It's an interesting concept, the load balancer. You might have heard nowadays in the job description of most of the company, they would have mentioned knowledge in F5 or hands-on knowledge in F5 load balancer. So this is one of them. These are the lab which I've mentioned. From the Cisco perspective, you know that ASA is end of life. But if you are gonna take my CCNP security or CCIE security, then remember ASA is still part of version 6. Okay, so we will start with ASA because that's fundamentals, and then we will get into the FTD. Then I'll show you FMC too. All right, so we would be touching the CCNP paper here, CCNP next generation paper, which covers the Cisco Firepower. And once again, automation is covered, live class, lab, etc., home lab, license, deployment, etc. would be covered up here. This is the lab for ASA FTD. So these are the FTD appliance. We have ASA covered up here. These are FTD. And the FMC is kept here, the centralized management. Okay, so these are some labs for the Cisco firewall. Then we get into the FortiGate, one of the very demanding firewall nowadays. So we cover the NSE4 paper, and this is the lab topology here, kept simple. We have two FortiGate with a site-to-site data center to data center case studies would be covered. Okay, these are some labs here, and then we move towards the checkpoint. We would be taking up R81 image here, R81. Okay, CCSA certification. The lab for the checkpoint is gonna be this, which has that appliance management concept. So you would deploy the Gaia operating system. You would make one of them act as an appliance, all that thing from the initial setup, from the initial IP configuration till the very end. Yes, FortiGate also has the SD-WAN. So we will show that SD-WAN part also. Okay, don't worry. All right, now after you have gone through the 5 in-depth modules, what we think is you should work on a real-time approach, correct? Because that is something everyone would be interested. So that is why we have come up with a bonus topology that you will get after the finish of the first 5 modules. So under this, we have come with this topology. This topology will have all the vendors in a single lab. Okay, so to explain this, you see here is where we have kept the ASA or FTD. We have FortiGate. We got the Palo Alto. We got the checkpoint. And if you look at them very closely, they are falling under the 3-tier architecture. That means access, distribution, core. Now, the reason for giving you this concept is you need to let's say, for example, the user who is sitting here wants to access a web URL which is hosted here behind the load balancer. So where are the page hosted? The page would be hosted here under the web server. So the traffic flow would be from this user, first go to his access switch, then to the firewalls, then towards the edge router, then go to the MPLS cloud. This is a MPLS cloud. Then with the label concept, it will go here. There needs to be inbound policy. It will hit the LTM. LTM will do the concept of load sharing depending upon how you have set. And then the return traffic has to come back. Correct? So this is how the real time also works when you see end-to-end communication. You can work between two vendor VPN as well. Let's say you want to create a VPN between Palo Alto and Checkpoint, right? So in that case, you have a Palo instance here, and you have, let's say, Checkpoint instance over here. So the traffic has to be secured while it goes to the cloud. So this has to be a IPSec tunneling. So when we give you this access, you would be able to create your own scenarios. Most of the scenarios would fall under this. Let's say this was a VPN scenario. You can also think from a port unlock or unblock or block concept. You have been asked, someone who is behind a Palo Alto has to have the access to the server behind a FTD or a ASA. So his traffic could go via this. So how would you add or apply, or how do you run the packet captures and what happens? So you can create your own number of case studies also. I would be giving 10 case studies, but rest is up to you. You face or you see some production scenario, you can start working on this, or you can practice on this with all that you want to do it. Okay, so this is about that massive lab topology. If you want to take it on your home lab, we can give it to you at the end of the batch completion, but it will take minimum 64 GB RAM with 16 core CPU, because this instance, what they have, they are having a HA concept. So we have kept two Palo Alto here, we have kept two Palo Alto here, two checkpoints on each of the office or enterprise. So you know that each instance is gonna take at least 4 to 8 GB for Palo. This will take at least 8 to 16 GB. FortiGate would take 4 to 6 GB. ASA will take a lesser, like 2 to 4 GB, whereas FTD will take minimum 8 GB, and the FMC will take 16 GB. So they eat a lot of resources. If you have your own server, this we can top it on your server. If you do not have it, we will give our server access to you, and you can have this access. Okay, those guys who are not well versed with MPLS, do not worry. Either I can give you the config, a ready-made config of MPLS, so you just deal with firewall to firewall communication. If you want to configure MPLS by yourself, go ahead. I'll give you the configuration too, so you can just refer that up. Okay, so this is about the whole curriculum. Now, who can join? As I told in the first slide itself, this is a 0 to hero course. So if you're from a routing switching background, or if you're a fresher with 6 months of networking experience, or if you are from 4 years, 5 years routing domain, and now you are bored with the regular job, and you would like to take a switch to the security domain, so this is where you need to start. Okay, also let me tell you, I'm basically starting 3 more batches. So decision is yours, what you would like to. The one is called Firewall Mastery. So the first module here is Cisco ASA FTD. The second one is CCNP Security and CCIE Security. So for all the 3 modules, this is acting as a starting point. So whoever is gonna enroll for my security, CCNP Security, CCIE Security, or Firewall Mastery, first I'm gonna take the ASA FTD. Later on, the person who would have enrolled for Firewall will continue his track. Those who are taken up CCNP or CCIE would have their own track. Okay, the CCNP guy probably would be with the CCIE person till this extension. It might be a same topic. His batch is over now, and CCIE Security would take it still further. So under CCIE Security, we have the score paper, we have SVPN, we have the ASA FTD, we have ESA, WSA, the automation topic, and ICE. So these are some topics. In the case of CCNP Security, it would be only the score paper, and you can take ASA and FTD paper. And under the Firewall Mastery, you know that it's more towards firewall concept, network firewalls. So whoever wants whichever flavor or whichever track, the decision is yours. You can take one of them. Okay, but for anyone, the starting point would be ASA. Now, someone who do not need either of this, but need to start with only Palo Alto. So we have next weekend in the morning hours that will start with a dedicated Palo Alto only. So we'll keep you in that batch. Okay, so this is how it's been scheduled. For the enrollment process, you can contact our backend. You can write an email. So this is where the calling number and the WhatsApp number and the email ID is. If you want, you can take a quick screenshot of this. The course content of Firewall Mastery 5 is over here. The CCNP Security, CCIE Security, you can take them directly from the official blueprint. And if you have any question, you can reach out on this. If you are for a Firewall Mastery, then too you can reach out to this, and our respective people will get in touch with you. Okay, so any question so far? Because I am done from my side. I'll unmute you guys. If you have any final Q&A, we can have it now.
So I do have one question. See, nowadays I think everyone is moving to cloud, right?
Yes.
So I think probably there we are using mostly this Palo Alto firewalls. So how it could be helpful for other technologies over there. So like if we take as this AWS or Azure, so most probably so they are integrating only the Palo Alto firewalls, right?
No, that is not the case. On the marketplace, you will see all the appliances. If you go to a guys, if you're not speaking, don't unmute yourself, okay? Or otherwise, I have to unmute. I have to mute everyone. See, when you go to AWS marketplace, it's not only Palo Alto which is kept. That's a wrong interpretation. You can search for FortiGate, you will get a FortiGate appliance there. You search for a F5 LTM, you will find it. Okay, if you find for Cisco, you will find the appliance here. I hope I answered you. Same concept with Azure and GCP. They also have a marketplace, and you need to go by seeing how much they charge you. Okay, I see one question in the chat which says that ASA and ICE. Guys, these are two different things. ASA or FTD is a pure firewall, whereas ICE is not a firewall. ICE initially used to be there used to be a appliance. I just forgot the name of it, which used to do only the AAA concept.
That is device management, network device management.
No, the
Using
ICE.
a network access control.
No. ICE got transitioned from a traditional thing. One second. Cisco. That was a very popular thing, and then the Cisco put an end of life to that and launched this.
TACAS, you mean to say?
Yeah, the TACAS management. The device used to be called with some name. I just forgot that name.
AnyConnect.
Not AnyConnect. Basically, this ICE can be integrated with this network device for AAA and TACAS authentication.
So yeah, there was a device, traditional device, which used to do this TACAS and radius and accounting jobs, etc. Later on, that got end of life, and the ICE was introduced. ICE has many more features now. It can do your basic AAA. It can do the guest profiling. It can sync up with the Wi-Fi access point, the graphs, the management dashboard. That's more better in ICE. So this itself also is in very demand. Okay, so profiling, probing, these are some concept in the Cisco ICE.
So is all come in same platform, or it's like a different?
It is not definitely a firewall platform. It's not a firewall platform, but it comes under security only, security track. I'm just scrolling down through the questions. If there is anything, I'll.
So this course fees and also pricing, we have to contact this, right?
Yes. You have to contact this backend team, and they will help you with it.
I'm sorry, is the lab access unlimited or just 2 months?
You mean to say the lab access?
Yes.
Okay, so regarding the lab access, we have two options. You take our remote lab access, which are with every module, you get 2-month free package included. Or if you have a good server or a good laptop, you can take home lab setup. But make sure these will need at least 16 GB RAM and 4-core CPU. Okay, we do extend here by 1 week or 5 days or whatever, but still home lab is something which you can power on as per your need and requirement.
So are you going to help with the home lab setup?
Yes, we will help you with this. We have a backend technical guys, so who over on the Ultra Viewer or remote desk will help you to put up the home lab package.
Sir, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sir, I want to know that about the PF Sense. It's a open source firewall which everyone can use it very freely. So I want to know that if I have seen a lot of organizations using PF Sense instead of the Fortinet and other paid firewall. So what make difference between these open source and paid firewall? Can you guide me why people will go for these paid firewall instead of they have already have open source or free firewall to install in their systems?
Yes, that is because I've already answered this in the beginning of session itself. I was talking about few factors. Let me once open that.
Yes, I joined a little late.
Yes, so It depends on a few factors. When you need a paid one, and at what scenario would you go with the. Give me 1 second. Yeah, see, these are the factors. So if you see number of users, is it a large, mid, small enterprise? Number of VPN tunnel, the license type that you'd like to go, data packet throughput, SSL encryption, decryption, IPS, IDS. These are some factor which you will decide whether you should spend a lot of money on these appliances, or you're okay with either of Sophos, CyberRoam, or PFSense, the free ones. Okay, if it's a branch, if it is 2 to 50 users or 2 to 10, 20 users, if the company is a small scale segment, they don't want to invest on the additional features. They're not into a product selling, but they are just a service providers, service, the normal service company. So why do they want to spend on the Palo Alto? They are not securing their data. They're not into software. They're not into product. So what data are they afraid of getting lost? They just need some basic security, and they think PFSense is all good for them. That is why. That's all up to their requirement.
Oh, okay, thank you, sir.
Sorry. Apart from the video recording, is there materials that is going to come with the course?
That is right. So see, I've kept here. Let me just show you what is done. Okay, let me put here. You would get live class, the recording of all live class. You will get the workbook step by step. You will get the reading material. You will get the 2-month remote lab access and home lab access.
These are offline classes or online?
This is online. This is online.
Oh, there is no offline classes.
This is online over on the Zoom based.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
All right, guys, we have 2 more minutes. If there is any doubt regards to the course, please let me know. So tomorrow we have the demo 2, the same Zoom ID. You will join the same Zoom ID. I'll show you the Palo Alto dashboard along with the FTD dashboard. Okay.
Okay, Sagar. Thank you so much. I think we are good.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.
Thanks.